Everyone, welcome to today's talk on Bitcoin versus gold. Why is Bitcoin better than gold, and would you want to own Bitcoin and gold at the same time? A lot of gold bugs claim that, oh, you should buy Bitcoin and gold, but actually we're going to dig into why gold isn't necessary once you have Bitcoin. So I'm going to go ahead and transition over to the next screen. So with gold has been around for 4,000 years. It is the total recognized store of value. It's the quintessential store of value. It's what's in bank vaults. It's what the pharaohs were buried with as money to be transported through the afterlife. And it's the jewelry that we wear, which jewelry, by the way, is a display of storing of value. There's a lot of other shiny metals out there, but people wear gold due to its scarcity. It's a display of wealth. And so up until this moment, there wasn't really like a good alternative safe haven asset or store value asset until Bitcoin came around. And if we think of different monies as different species, Bitcoin is a different species of money. And the code of life is written to an organism at its inception. Satoshi carefully architected Bitcoin's genetic code or computer code to be the best sound money ever created. And we can think of that genetic code as representing instructions to organize cellular function. Now, that code manifests itself physically in the form of traits. Just like I have green eyes and blonde brown hair, these are visible traits that my genetic code, this is the visible front sort of what you see from this organism. And so with Bitcoin and monies have different traits. And according to Charles Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection, organisms that possess traits that enable them to better adapt to their environment compared to members of their species will be more likely to survive, reproduce, and pass on those genes to the next generation. Well, money is no different. Money has traits that enable it to thrive and survive. And Bitcoin is a new species of money that is vastly superior than its predecessors. So this chart here is pulled from my four-part series called Planting Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin's origin story. So the idea is that Satoshi didn't just choose the right genetics in his new species of money. He chose the right season, the soil, and the gardening techniques that enabled it to survive. So definitely recommend that you check this out. It's probably my most popular article out there. So when it comes to Bitcoin versus gold versus fiat, and fiat is your local government currency, there's different traits that they each have that make them more or less advantageous. Bitcoin, as you can see, has many advantageous traits that were either non-existent in gold and fiat, or Bitcoin optimized. And so Satoshi carefully selected this genetic code to enable these traits that would enable Bitcoin to be the most competitive money out there. And so below here, I'll go through a couple of these. All right, scarcity. How much of the supply exists and how much will there be in the future? So we don't know how much gold has already been mined. We estimate how much gold has been mined, and we don't even know how much gold is going to be mined tomorrow or next week or next year. And we definitely don't know how much gold is going to come out and further and further out we go. And even now we don't know how much gold has been created or mined, and we don't know how much will. But we also know that in the far future, there will be a near infinite amount of gold, which undermines why you would own gold. You own it because it's scarce. If there's tons of gold, then the price of gold would drop as more supply is produced to meet demand. And we know this objectively because we can measure the composition of different asteroids. Gold is actually a very prevalent metal in the universe, especially on asteroids. And there is an asteroid that has enough precious metals on it to make literally everyone a billionaire on Earth. That's how much gold is on this thing. So that would immediately destroy the price of gold. And so we can see that gold, its predictable scarcity or its predictable supply is terrible. It's one of the, we don't see this worked for 4,000 years until we had Bitcoin. But with Bitcoin, we've got a precise 21 million measurement, exactly precise, that anyone can validate on their home computer. This is in stark contrast to an unknown supply, a currently unknown supply in the future, and in the far future, a very known large supply that will dilute the value. Another trait of money is verifiability. Can I trust that it's real? And with gold, it takes extensive machinery. So this is the Thermo Scientific Nitron desktop, and these are other gold verification tools. It's a nice cheap price of $11,000, and this is necessary because gold requires a lot of trust and sound sensors like ultrasound and others to validate it. But we see that there's verification errors all the time. In China, there was an incident where 83 tons of fake gold was used as collateral, and they called it ghost collateral. And this undermined part of the Chinese financial system because it was gold plated, so you had gold on there, but it was I think copper underneath. And this is pretty silly because they'd have to go drill into each gold bar to verify that it's real, and that's just, even at industrial scale, that's like very hard to do. On a regular like retail customer like you and me sitting here on our computers, it's very, very difficult. But Bitcoin supply, in every transaction ever made, every new transaction can all be easily verifiable with a Bitcoin full node that you can run on your desktop at home. This is huge. It totally changes the dynamic of having to trust any system or counterparty. You can run the math on your computer and verify that it is real. This is huge. Gold looks silly and antiquated in comparison. You've also got another trait of money called divisibility. How small can you make it? Gold can be broken into smaller pieces, but they have to be pre-cut. So like gold coins, for example. And they're very cost prohibitive to verify. Like, you're not going to go drill every single gold coin that's only worth $10 or something. But Bitcoin is divisible down to 100 million pieces per Bitcoin. And those little pieces are called Satoshis. And as mentioned before, you can actually verify every single Satoshi with your home computer. Now, portability, this is the big one. And I love this image where it shows a little Trezor, a device you can store your Bitcoin on, which, by the way, at the bottom in the description here, I've got a link to this if you want to go buy it. It's a good way to self-custody your own funds. There's other ones out there as well, so I encourage you to go explore. But this is Bitcoin, one hardware device compared to all this gold. That tiny little device could have $10 billion on it. Instead, you've got this giant pallet of gold that weighs tons and is extremely difficult to move. So Germany repatriated its gold from Paris and New York. The gold was there during the Cold War because they were worried that the Russians, if they invaded Germany, would then be able to seize that gold. This process to move that gold took 5 years and almost $10 million. If that's not crazy enough, here's the process. So the gold had to be flown in on like private chartered planes with huge amount of security. Road transportation was avoided because it would put the drivers at risk for like a carjacking, and they're too heavy to be moved in cars. So they just did it plane to plane, and then I think they put it on a train. Their in-house legal team had to pour over contracts to ensure that it was covered during transit. Most insurers pay out in dollars rather than gold. So if the gold had been seized and they received their claim back, to the insurance company paid out the claim, it would be in dollars or euros, and the price of gold might have changed. And then all the bars had to be examined by a 5 to 8 person team, which use X-ray machines and other techniques to evaluate the purity. But this is nuts when you compare it to Bitcoin. Bitcoin would have taken extremely minimal amount of energy consumption, and in 10 to 60 minutes, we'd have the same confidence as we have with holding that physical gold bar. And we can do this from any computer to computer in the world, which is wild. That's what Satoshi really means by peer-to-peer, is that like we can move Bitcoin around from peer to peer. This is incredible. And we don't require any third party. And I can do it on that little Trezor device that I showed you in that image, or you can do it on your phone or on a computer. It's incredible. I mean, you could also store Bitcoin in your head if you'd like. You could memorize your backup, which is your 12 to 24 word. It's called the mnemonic. And that is wild, vastly different than the transportability of gold. And then censorship resistance. Can you store it securely without it being seized easily? Well, gold has to be stored in these large vaults and with guards and security equipment. And when it's transported, you have all this extra insurance that has to be taken out, which is nuts. Bitcoin can be safely secured on a $50 hardware device or written on a piece of metal or plate, which, by the way, I personally own these. These are great. These are titanium backups. So you etch your mnemonic backup, your 12 to 24 words, into this titanium, and it's really cool because let's see, they've got a cool video where they put it in fire. They put it in fire here. Then they let's see what else I think they shoot it once. Yeah, they stress test it. So they pounded it with these different machines. They shot it with these different guns. So, Bitcoin is very hard to seize because if I put my Bitcoin on that little Trezor or on my backup here, good luck finding that. You can put that anywhere you'd like. You can put that in the middle of the forest. You can put that in your backyard. You can put that in your home. It's very easy to store, very easy to hide. If you really wanted to, you wouldn't have anything physical other than the 12 to 24 words memorized in your head. I don't recommend that. It's very likely that you will forget the 12 to 24 words if given enough time. So when we look at gold versus Bitcoin, Bitcoin is the apex predator of money. It has been perfectly honed for its environment through its exceptional genetic code and the manifestation of that code in the form of superior traits. Its existence is the precursor to the extinction of gold. Once you have Bitcoin, gold looks antiquated and has far worse traits than Bitcoin does. It's totally a game changer in terms of storing value. Is this new digital version. Gold can never scale for the internet, nor going to the stars. We know that its lifetime is finite, just most people haven't accepted or recognized that fact yet. Bitcoin brings that to a head and brings this conversation of what is a good store of value to its conclusion. It's the final iteration of money. I hope everyone enjoyed this. You can get this first, by the way, on my Substack. So it's the Held newsletter on Substack. So if you subscribe, you get this on Thursdays. And then I create this video over the weekend and publish it. Hope everyone enjoyed. This was a fun conversation. I think a lot of people are a little bit confused. Like people who love Bitcoin still love gold. I think it's kind of silly. After you get into Bitcoin, you don't really need gold. All right. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.